Aristotle, the ancient Greek philosopher, was a pretty smart cookie. He had this idea that everything in the universe had a natural place and a natural way of behaving. Imagine a universe where heavy objects longed to be at rest, nestled comfortably at the center of it all. That was Aristotle's vision. He believed that objects had an inherent tendency to reach their natural state, and any deviation from this state required a constant cause, a force. But here's the thing about Aristotle's view of force. It was rooted in the idea that the Earth was the center of the universe. Everything revolved around us, literally. The sun, moon, stars, you name it, they were all dancing to Earth's tune in perfect celestial circles. And within this Earth-centric model, Aristotle's ideas about force and motion seemed to make sense. Aristotle believed that there were two types of motion, natural and unnatural. Natural motion was all about objects striving to reach their rightful place in the universe. Think of a rock plummeting to the ground. That's natural motion according to Aristotle. Heavy objects, he reasoned, belonged on the ground, so they naturally moved towards it. Unnatural motion, on the other hand, was any motion that deviated from this natural order. Imagine pushing a rock uphill. That's unnatural motion. In Aristotle's view, you needed to constantly apply a force to keep that rock moving against its natural inclination to roll back down. He thought that without a continuous force, objects would simply stop moving altogether. Now, while Aristotle's ideas about natural order were certainly influential, they weren't exactly spot on. It turns out that motion is a bit more complex than simply objects seeking their rightful place. And that's where a certain Sir Isaac Newton enters the picture, ready to turn our understanding of force and motion upside down. Fast forward a couple of millennia, and along comes Sir Isaac Newton, an English physicist and mathematician with a penchant for apple trees and revolutionary ideas. Newton wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo, especially when it came to long-held beliefs about the universe. He took Aristotle's ideas about motion and basically said, "Thanks, but I think I can explain things a little better." Newton's groundbreaking work, Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, laid the foundation for classical mechanics and our modern understanding of force. He didn't just refine Aristotle's ideas, he completely transformed them, replacing a universe of natural order with a universe governed by laws of motion and universal gravitation. One of Newton's most significant contributions was his law of universal gravitation. Remember that apple falling from the tree? Legend has it that this seemingly mundane event sparked Newton's curiosity and led him to ponder the force that pulled the apple downward. Could the same force that pulled the apple also be responsible for the moon's orbit around the Earth? Newton's answer was a resounding yes. He proposed that every object in the universe attracts every other object with a force that depends on their masses and the distance between them. This force, which he called gravity, was the invisible hand that kept the planets in orbit around the sun and our feet firmly planted on the ground. Gravity wasn't just some abstract concept to Newton, it was a force that could be described mathematically. His law of universal gravitation provided a way to calculate the gravitational force between any two objects, from apples falling from trees to planets orbiting stars. Section 5, Defining Force. It's all about the push and pull. In the world of physics, force is a pretty big deal. It's the driving force behind motion, or lack thereof, and it's what makes the universe such a dynamic and ever-changing place. But what exactly is force? In simple terms, force is any interaction that, when unopposed, will change the motion of an object. Think of it this way, a force is a push or a pull. When you push a shopping cart, you're applying a force. When you pull a door open, you're applying a force. Even when you're just standing still, gravity is exerting a downward force on your body, and the ground is pushing back up with an equal and opposite force. Force isn't just about moving objects, though. It can also change an object's shape or even break it apart. Think of squeezing a stress ball or bending a paperclip. These actions all involve applying a force that deforms the object. Section 6, Force's Effects, from changing speed to smashing tomatoes. Force is a bit of a multitasker in the world of physics. It can cause objects to speed up, slow down, change direction, or even change shape. Imagine a soccer ball at rest. Give it a good kick, and you've applied a force that sets it in motion, increasing its speed and changing its direction. That's force in action, folks. Now imagine that same soccer ball hurtling towards you. To stop it, you'd need to apply a force in the opposite direction, slowing it down. And if you're feeling particularly mischievous, you could even apply a force to the side, causing the ball to swerve, much to the astonishment of the intended recipient. But force isn't just about sports and games. It's constantly at play in our everyday lives. From the gentle breeze rustling the leaves to the powerful engine propelling a rocket into space, force is the invisible hand shaping our world. Section 7. Calculating force F equals sign May. It's not just a formula, it's the law. Now let's get a little more precise about this whole force business. Newton, being the brilliant mind that he was, didn't just define force. He gave us a handy-dandy equation to calculate it. Enter Newton's second law of motion, elegantly expressed as F equals sign ma. Don't let the simplicity of this equation fool you. It's one of the most fundamental concepts in classical mechanics. In this equation, F represents force, m stands for mass, the amount of matter in an object, and it represents acceleration, the rate of change of an object's velocity. What this equation tells us is that force is directly proportional to both mass and acceleration. In other words, the more massive an object is, the more force it takes to accelerate it. This equation is incredibly powerful because it allows us to quantify force. We can now calculate exactly how much force is required to accelerate a 10-kilogram object at 2 meters per second squared. Spoiler alert, it's 20 newtons. Section 8. Understanding acceleration, speeding up, slowing down, and changing direction. Acceleration, the A in our trusty F equals ma equation, is all about change in velocity. Now, velocity isn't just about how fast something is moving, it's also about the direction it's heading. So, acceleration can mean speeding up, slowing down, or even changing direction. Picture a car at a standstill. When the driver hits the gas pedal, the car accelerates, increasing its velocity from 0. But even when the car is cruising at a constant speed, it still experiences acceleration when it goes around a curve. Why? Because its direction is changing, and remember, velocity is all about speed and direction. To calculate acceleration, we use the formula A equals v divided by t, where A is acceleration, v is the change in velocity, and t is the time it takes for that change to occur. So if a car goes from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5 seconds, its acceleration is 12 miles per hour per second. Section 9. Measuring force, dynes, and newtons. A tale of two units. Now that we've got the formulas down, let's talk units. Just like we measure distance in meters and time in seconds, we need a way to quantify force. In the world of physics, we have two main systems of units: the centimeter-gram-second system, or CGS, and the meter-kilogram-second system, or SI. In the CGS system, force is measured in dynes. 1 dyne is the force required to accelerate a 1-gram object at a rate of 1 centimeter per second squared. It's a relatively small unit of force, often used for measuring small-scale forces. In the SI system, the unit of force is the newton, named after our good friend Sir Isaac. 1 newton is defined as the force required to accelerate a 1 kilogram object at a rate of 1 meter per second squared. It's a more commonly used unit for everyday applications. Section 10. Force in action, real-world examples to get your neurons firing. Let's put our newfound knowledge of force into action with some real-world examples. Imagine a game of tug-of-war. Both teams are pulling on the rope with all their might, but the rope isn't budging. Why? Because the forces are balanced. Each team is exerting an equal and opposite force on the rope, resulting in a net force of 0. Now imagine one team gets a sudden burst of energy and pulls with greater force. The forces are no longer balanced, and the rope moves in the direction of the stronger force. The team that exerts the greater force wins the day, or at least the tug-of-war. Another example. Imagine a rocket launching into space. The engines ignite, burning fuel and expelling hot gases out of the back of the rocket. This expulsion of gases creates a powerful force that propels the rocket upward, overcoming the force of gravity. The greater the force of the engines, the faster the rocket accelerates and the higher it climbs. Section 11. From Aristotle to astronauts, the enduring legacy of understanding force. From Aristotle's musings on natural order to Newton's groundbreaking laws of motion, our understanding of force has come a long way. We've moved beyond the idea of a universe where objects seek their natural place and embraced a universe governed by fundamental laws that can be described mathematically. Today, our understanding of force allows us to do incredible things. We can design skyscrapers that withstand hurricane-force winds, build bridges that span vast rivers, and launch spacecraft that explore the cosmos. We can even calculate the force required to crush a tomato should the need arise. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of our quest to understand force is the realization that the universe is not a random and chaotic place, but rather a cosmos governed by elegant laws that we can unravel and comprehend. And that, my friends, is a truly awe-inspiring thought.